When she was a young girl, Elena wanted to travel around the world. As such, she decided to study so she could become a witch. When she turns 14 years old, Elena passes the sorcery exam, becoming an apprentice witch. She then approaches the witches in the country in order to be their disciple, but she is rejected. Afterward, Elena overhears her parents talking about the Stardust Witch, who lives in the forest. Heading there, she meets the Stardust Witch, who is named Fran. She's surprised when Fran agrees to train her. However, for a month, all Elena does are chores. When Fran gives Elena a test, she overwhelms her, which causes Elena to become despondent. Fran then reveals that her parents asked her to teach her about failure and setbacks. She decides to train Elena for real. A year later, Elena becomes a full-fledged witch. After an emotional send-off, Elena leaves her home. It is then revealed that Elena has been traveling for 3 years. Elena arrives in the land of mages. While she's flying around, another mage runs into her. After Elena helps the mage, she heads off to find a place to stay. However, she's kicked out of every inn she visits. When she heads to one more place, which is a rundown inn, Elena meets the same mage she previously encountered, named Saya. She then notices that her brooch is missing. Later that night, Saya reveals that her younger sister passed the sorcery exam, and she asks Elena to train her. Elena agrees to help Saya until she finds her brooch. A few days later, while she's out looking for her brooch in the area where Saya ran into her, Elena has a conversation with one of the residents. That night, Elena asks Saya to give her her brooch back. When Saya admits that she took it because she was lonely, Elena gives Saya her space hat so she will not feel alone. 6 months later, Elena reads an article that reveals that Saya had become an apprentice witch. Elena looks forward to meeting Saya again when she becomes a full-fledged witch. While flying over a flower field, Elena meets a girl who gives her a bouquet. Upon entering the next kingdom, however, she is stopped by a guard who recognizes her voice as coming from his missing sister. Another guard then shows up and reveals that the bouquet is actually magical flowers. The next day, Elena returns to the girl, only to find that she has turned into a plant. She also notices that the girl's brother is in the process of becoming one as well. Seeing that there is nothing she can do, Elena flies away. Elena encounters a mage named Emil, who has been collecting happiness as a present for a girl he has a crush on named Nino. Inviting Elena into his home, it is revealed that Nino is actually the family's depressed and abused slave. Emil later gives Nino his present. However, unbeknownst to him, seeing others' happiness only makes her more depressed. Afterward, Elaine departs. She never sees Nino again. Elena arrives at the ruins of a kingdom, abandoned by all but its amnesiac princess, Mira Rose, who reveals that every night, the kingdom is terrorized by a monster known as Javelier, and that the castle is the only safe haven. Having discovered that she is a witch, Mira Rose intends to battle Javelier, and Elena agrees to help prepare after being allowed to stay at the castle. During the battle, Elena stakes out just in case Mira Rose needs help. However, having regained her memories, Mira Rose easily defeats Javelier. Elena later recalls the story of forbidden love between a princess and a cook. Mira Rose reveals that she was the princess and that her father, the king, had had her lover executed, prompting her to take revenge by turning him into a monster before erasing her own memories. Afterward, Elena leaves as Mira Rose begins spiraling into eternal madness, imagining herself having breakfast with her deceased lover and child. Her actions have made her known as the princess without subjects. Elena is walking around when she comes across a book about her mentor, Fran. She then reminisces when she visited the country of Royal Celestria 6 months prior. In the Royal Celestria, Elena noticed some mages performing tricks for the crowd. When she arrived at the Royal Magic Academy, she was told that no one was allowed to enter without permission. Later, while Elena was flying around, several students from the academy attempted to catch her without success. Then Fran showed up, and she and Elena reunited for the first time in a few years. At the academy, Fran revealed why she was teaching there. She also revealed that she wrote a novel during her travels, but had lost track of it. The next day, Elena served as a special guest lecturer. Afterward, Fran and Elena had a conversation in which Fran told Elena to meet her at the city gates. The next morning, when Elena tried to leave without waiting, Fran and the students arrived to say goodbye. Back in the present, Elena notices how popular Fran is. Elena arrives in the land of the Truth Tellers, a country surrounded by a magical barrier that makes lying impossible. However, she soon finds that being unable to lie has caused the inhabitants to resort to other methods of deceiving others. After checking out the country for a while, Elena is reunited with Saya, a now full-fledged witch, sent to investigate the country. They are then approached by the country's mute former royal witch, Euphemia, who explains the situation. The king hated how his subjects would lie to him and ordered her to cast the barrier using the royal sword as a medium, losing her voice in the process. To restore the country back to normal, the trio sneak into the castle and, after a short scuffle, destroy the sword, restoring everyone's ability to lie, along with Euphemia's voice. Afterward, Euphemia convinces the king of the error of his ways, while Saya gives Elena a necklace before they part ways. When she was young, Elena read a story about how Nike convinced the officials of a divided country to allow travelers to carve into the wall. In the present, Saya is in the country and she convinces the officials to allow the people in the country to carve into it as well. When Elena arrives in the country, she discovers that the wall has been torn down. She then picks out a piece of the wall that partially has Saya's message on it. In a village, an old man tells his grandchild the story of how the grape throwing festival started. He reveals that the village was divided when a witch showed up. The village chief asked the witch to help stomp grapes. She was reluctant to do so until she was insulted by Rosemary, a famous poster girl. Later, the chief and the witch found out that Rosemary was not the one who actually stomped the grapes. While the villagers were arguing, the witch drunkenly threw grapes at everyone. This eventually led to the festival's origin. Back in the present, it is revealed that the chief and Rosemary are married. Elena arrives in a country where dolls are very popular. While she's taking a break, Elena overhears another witch asking the townspeople if they had seen the Ripper. Just as she's about to leave, Elena is approached by the witch, who introduces herself as Sheila. Once she explains the situation, Sheila asks Elena to let her know if she finds anything. As she's walking around, Elena comes across a doll shop. After turning down a request to take a free doll, she heads to an inn. The next morning, Elena finds out that her hair has been cut. During their investigation, Elena and Sheila learn of a secret auction, which they head to later that day. When they see the doll that has Elena's hair, Elena damages it, causing the doll shopkeeper to reveal herself. When she admits that she is the Ripper, she is captured by Sheila and Elena. Once they go their separate ways, it is revealed that Sheila is Saya's mentor. When Saya learns what happened, she angrily confronts the shopkeeper. Finding herself out of money in the town of Rostolf, Elena takes a job from a fellow witch named Estelle, who tells her about a friend named Selena. She lost her parents and was taken in by an abusive uncle until she went insane and murdered him, forcing Estelle to execute her. Estelle wants Elena's help in a time travel spell to go back in time and prevent the deaths of Selena's parents. Elena accepts and the two successfully travel to the past. However, while warning Selena's parents, they're attacked by the killer, who is none other than Selena herself. She reveals that her parents abused her as well and she never saw Estelle as a friend, prompting the latter to kill her. After returning to the present, it is revealed that Estelle gave up her memories of Selena to boost her magic, leaving Elena to despair about the situation. Sheila prepares to go to an annual vacation with Fran after ordering Saya to deliver a box to the United Magic Association branch in the town of Connor. On their way, the two recall their youth as fellow apprentices of Nike. They frequently clashed until their master tasked them with apprehending the Curio Company, a band of robbers that terrorized Connor. Unfortunately, their continued clashing only caused them to get in each other's way, and they ended up getting captured. Ultimately, the two put their differences aside and worked together to defeat the Curio Company. Afterward, they became full-fledged witches. Back in the present, Sheila recognizes the box as having belonged to the Curio Company, and she rushes after Saya. Meanwhile, Elena arrives in Connor. Elena is in Connor, where she reads an article stating that the Curio Company is free after 20 years. Meanwhile, Saya arrives in the town where she encounters the leader, who unsuccessfully tries to steal the box. She then meets up with her younger sister, Mina, who is working undercover. The leader later finds Elena and she uses a spell that causes Elena and Saya to switch bodies. While inside Saya's body, Elena opens the box, which releases a love potion that spreads throughout the town. After they find each other, Elena and Saya apprehend members of the Curio Company in order to find the location of the leader. Once they confront her, she brags that there are more members in the town that they have not captured. Just then, Fran and Sheila arrive to help restore order. The next day, Elena and Saya are back in their bodies. When Sheila, Saya, and Mina leave town, Elena and Fran have a conversation before they go their separate ways. Elena then decides to continue on her journey. Elena arrives in a country that claims it can make wishes come true. Once she heads inside, she notices that the locations are places she had previously visited. When Elena goes to Mira Rose's castle, she learns that there are many versions of herself. At a meeting, it is revealed that one of the Elenas has been attacking everyone. Shortly thereafter, the violent Elena shows up. When the real Elena wonders why the violent Elena is doing this, she admits that she wants everyone to experience the same pain she feels, as she never got over what happened in Rostov. Following an exhausting battle, the real Elena makes peace with the violent Elena. When they return to the castle, the Elenas decide to turn their diaries into a book called The Wandering Witch. Afterward, Elena is in another country when she bumps into a girl named Amnesia, and they accidentally switch their books in the process. Elena reveals that she and Amnesia will travel together in the future. And that's the end of the video. As always, if you liked what you saw, subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading a lot of videos just like this, so I'll see you at the next one.